Winter in war is not just cold, it is cruel. Snow covers the ground, ice bites the skin, the wind cuts through coats and boots. During World War II, many soldiers did not fear bullets the most. They feared the cold. In the long winters of Europe, men froze in trenches, bunkers, and broken houses. Fires were dangerous, smoke could reveal a hidden position to the enemy. Large heaters were heavy and hard to carry. So soldiers needed something small, quiet, and safe, something that could give warmth without giving away their location. That is where a tiny object came in. It looked simple, just a small metal tin with wax and a wick. But this tiny heat candle became a silent hero. In the worst winters of the war, this little flame helped keep thousands alive. The heat candle was not fancy. In fact, it looked like something you might see in a kitchen today. A small tin filled with wax or fat and a short wick in the center. When lit, it burned with a soft flame. The light was weak, but the heat mattered more. Soldiers placed these candles inside helmets, metal cups, or small boxes. The metal trapped the heat and spread warmth into the air. It was not enough to warm a whole room, but it could warm cold hands. It could melt ice in a canteen. It could warm a small piece of bread in freezing trenches. Even a little heat felt like a miracle. Many soldiers said that tiny flame felt like hope in the dark. The idea was simple, but its power came from smart use. Soldiers learned how to build small heat traps. One common trick was to place the candle under a metal helmet turned upside down. The helmet worked like a tiny stove. Heat rose and stayed inside the metal shell before spreading out. Some men placed 2 or 3 candles under a metal box with holes. Air moved through the holes and carried warm air outward. It was a small heater made from scrap, no smoke, very little light, and almost no sound. In a war where silence meant survival, this mattered a lot. A loud fire could get you killed, but a small candle could save your life. The worst cold came on the Eastern Front. Winters there were brutal. Temperatures dropped far below freezing. Snow piled high across fields and forests. Many soldiers were not ready for such cold. Their gear was thin, their boots froze stiff at night, fingers turned numb in minutes. In those deadly nights, the tiny heat candle became a secret weapon against winter. Soldiers kept them in pockets and packs. Some used them to thaw frozen rifles, others used them to warm canned food. A single flame could slowly melt ice in a cup, giving a soldier water to drink. That small warmth could stop frostbite from spreading. Sometimes that was the difference between life and death. These candles were also easy to make. Factories produced many, but soldiers often made their own. Wax from old candles, animal fat, or grease could all work as fuel. A small strip of cloth became the wick. The container could be a tin from food rations. In war, nothing was wasted. Empty cans turned into heaters. Cloth scraps became wicks. Even boot polish tins sometimes became heat candles. This simple design meant the idea spread quickly. Different armies used similar tricks. The concept did not belong to one nation. It belonged to survival itself, wherever soldiers faced freezing nights. The tiny candle appeared again and again. The heat candle did more than warm hands. It lifted spirits. War is not only a battle of weapons, it is also a battle of the mind. Long nights in the cold can break a soldier's will. Darkness feels endless. Silence feels heavy, but a small flame changes that feeling. It gives light, even if faint. It gives warmth, even if small. Soldiers gathered around these candles when they could. They spoke quietly. They shared stories. Sometimes they melted a bit of snow to make weak tea. The candle became a small center of life in a frozen world. A tiny flame can remind people that warmth still exists. Many soldiers later wrote about this trick in letters and diaries. They did not describe it as a great invention. Instead, they spoke about it with simple gratitude. One man wrote that a small candle kept his hands warm enough to hold his rifle through the night. Another said it helped him dry wet socks after marching through snow. Wet feet in winter can quickly turn deadly. Frostbite spreads fast when skin stays cold and damp. A tiny heater made from a candle could dry cloth just enough to protect a soldier's feet. These small victories against winter rarely appear in history books, but they saved lives every day. What makes this story amazing is how little technology it needed. No electricity, no heavy fuel tanks, just wax, a wick, and a metal tin. Modern survival experts still use similar ideas today. Campers sometimes place small candles under clay pots to create mini heaters. Emergency kits often include tea candles because they are light and dependable. The science is simple. Fire releases heat. metal spreads that heat into the air. When trapped in a small space, even a tiny flame becomes useful warmth. Soldiers during the war did not need complex machines, they needed simple tools that always worked. In many ways, the heat candle shows the true face of survival. War stories often focus on tanks, planes, and famous battles, but survival often comes down to small things: a dry pair of socks, a warm cup of water, a tiny flame in the dark. The heat candle was never meant to be heroic, it was meant to be practical, yet its quiet service helped thousands endure winters that might have killed them. Sometimes the greatest life saving tools are not loud or impressive. They are small, simple, and easy to overlook. Today, that tiny survival candle stands as a reminder. Human beings can survive terrible conditions when they use creativity and teamwork. Soldiers shared these tricks with each other. One man learned it, then passed it on. Soon many knew it. That is how knowledge spreads in hard times. A simple idea becomes a lifeline. In the frozen winters of World War II, when the wind howled and the snow never seemed to end, a small metal tin held a quiet flame. That flame was weak compared to a roaring fire, but in those dark nights it was strong enough to keep hope and life burning.